Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, September 27th, and this is our morning drive live. So I wanted to talk today um, about a post over the weekend that got a lot of discussion, and that was a post about discussing network status with your patients. And the overwhelming response was naturally be honest with your patients about your network status. However, the original poster, the person who posted this, was having a concern because their doctor said, don't tell patients when we're not in network. Just tell them, yes, we listen, we work with your insurance, and come on in. And this presents a few problems for me that I wanted to make sure we addressed right away because it's something that really bothered me, and I look at it like this. Um, if you had gone to a family doctor, if you had gone to an urgent care and they said, "Oh yes, we absolutely take your insurance. No problem." And they saw you and they took your insurance, and then a month later you got a $590 bill in the mail, you would be incredibly upset. And it made me think about over the beginning of the year. Um, my son was actually coming home for the weekend from college, got rear-ended by somebody on the highway, somebody who wasn't paying attention, another kid that was on his cell phone while he was driving, and he got rear-ended. And we called the insurance company, we did everything we had to do, um, took our car to a body shop, or his car to a body shop, and it was a body shop that was recommended by the insurance company. So we went, everything was wonderful, we got the work done. Now, what would have happened? How would you feel if after that was all done, you went to pick up the car and the body shop said, "Oh, well, we work with your insurance company, but we don't accept your insurance company's payment. So you now owe us $4,600. You owe us $4,600 and your insurance company will pay you whatever they'll pay you for that." You would be incredibly upset. So I always say, treat your patients like you would want to be treated. And you would not want a surprise bill. You would not want to get that huge bill. You would not want to hear, "Oh, we absolutely work with your insurance," only to find out that they're using what I can only call a sneaky tactic to say, "Yes, we work with your insurance, but we don't accept your insurance as payment in full, like you intended, like you meant when you asked the question." Because, for us, we see a difference between, do you accept my insurance and do you work with my insurance? Patients do not see a difference with that. And people can say, well, that's up to them to understand their benefits, and that's up to them. It is, but here's my thing. If they can't trust you to be honest about your network participation, how can they possibly trust you when it comes to making medical decisions for them and what's in their best interest? You become somebody who cares only about the money, somebody who cares only about what you can get out of them rather than the service you can provide for them. And that in my mind is truly an issue. There are a couple consulting companies, a couple marketing companies that will actually tell you, don't even talk about insurance. Get the patient in the door, get them in the seat. And some of them will say it's their responsibility. If they don't understand their insurance, then it's not your problem, it's their problem. But here's the issue. Now we have patients that we have, I'll just say pissed off because we weren't upfront with them about our participation status. We have patients that we're now chasing for bills, or we have an instance where we have to submit a whole bunch of corrected claims because now we're writing off balances that we never really intended to collect. And as we all know, when you're out of network, the amount you submit on the claim form is the amount you intend to collect. So if you submitted $300 for an exam and x-rays, and now you're going to write off $150 of that, you have to submit a corrected claim in or out of network. Providing any false information on a claim form is not allowed. It's a crime and you're not allowed to do it. So now you're either chasing money from patients who are never going to come back to you because they can't trust you, or you're sending a whole bunch of corrected claims to insurance companies because you don't want to chase that money, or your marketing company or your consulting company is telling you just write it off. If they don't pay it, just write it off. So, you're taking up spots for patients who will be happy to just try and get people in the door. And B, you are going to upset so many patients, it's just not worth it. So, please, 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 if you are out of network, explain to people why you're not in their network. If they call and ask, do you work with my insurance? Be upfront with them. We are an out of network provider. We will check your policy if that's what you do. We will check your policy. We will confirm that you will have benefits if you come here, but we are not in network with your insurance. We will work with your insurance. We will submit claims to your insurance. We will, in some cases, even accept assignment of benefits to help reduce your out-of-pocket expense. But be honest with the patients about your network participation status, because like I said in the beginning, if they can't trust you to be honest about money, they are never going to trust you to be honest about their medical needs and what they need from a service point of view. Everything's going to become about money, and you're going to be one of those greedy dentists that makes all the rest of us look terrible. So that is it. I am here. Everybody have a fantastic day. I will see you guys tomorrow. Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, September 28th, and this is our morning drive live. So I wanted to just hop on real quick today and talk about the HIPAA disclosure restriction. That is something that people are talking about again, that basically overrides your contract if you're in network with an insurance company, to say that the patient does not have to, or you do not have to, submit claims for services provided to the insurance company. And, there is a very specific part of the HITECH Act that went into effect in 2013 that allows a patient to opt not to use their insurance at an in-network provider, given a few caveats. And there's a number of people who are saying you just have them fill out a form and then boom, you don't have to submit to insurance. But that comes with a couple caveats that I want everybody to be aware of. Number one, the disclosure restriction that is insurance specific, that was allowed by the HITECH Act, requires that you as a provider have a very specific and written plan documenting exactly how you will handle the entire process. It's something that you can suggest to the patient. You cannot require it. You cannot make it a requirement of them being at your office or you providing a specific service. So a lot of offices will try and use this when the reimbursement from an in-network insurance company is lower than what they'd really like to accept for a specific service. And they say, well, we'll just have you fill out this form and you pay for it out of pocket, so we don't have to submit it to insurance, which means they don't have to take the allowed fee, that lower fee. But if the patient refuses, you're not allowed to deny service based on that, because you're in network, and that would violate your contract, but also violate the rule that goes along with the HITECH Act. So, the first step, if you are going to do this, you can't just have a form. You need to have a written process in your HIPAA binder, in your HIPAA plan, on specifically how to handle this form and this type of restriction. The ones that I write for offices are usually 8 or 9 pages long, and it's again, a step by step how we're going to handle it, how it's going to be addressed. The other caveat, and this is something that falls on both the office and the patient, they have to pay your full fee. You can't give them a 5% discount. You can't give them a 2% you paid cash discount. They have to pay your full fee, even to the point that if they write you a check and the check bounces, the entire thing is voided. They can't make it up at that point. So they have to pay you your full fee in advance. Now, the rule doesn't say in advance. The rule says they have to pay you your full fee. However, if it's let's say a crown, and you're doing a full gold crown, and you don't want to accept the high noble allowance for it, so you want to get the full gold so you can charge for the extra lab fee for the material, they have to pay your full fee. So if you split it in half and you say, we're going to do half at prep and the other half you're going to pay at delivery, and the patient comes in, they get the crown seated, and they don't pay the other half at delivery, that opt-out of insurance is completely voided at that point, and you have to now submit it to insurance. And that all has to be part of your written plan. I will tell you, when you buy a HIPAA plan that is a pre-built or a template type plan, from anybody, whether it's a supplier, an association, or whoever, that specific plan is not included as part of their standard plan. So you have to create it yourself. And if you don't have it and you get audited, you get inspected, or the OCR comes in to review your paperwork, because remember, even with a disclosure restriction in effect, the government is still entitled to those records. So you want to make sure you're following those rules, and you can't just, again, it's not just as simple as we have a form, we have you sign the form, you pay full price, and you're good to go. You have to follow the rules. You have to have that written plan in place. If you do not, every one of those forms you've had filled out is completely voided and doesn't exist. If the patient does not pay your full cash price for that service, it is void, it does not exist, and you have to submit to insurance. So, like I said, make sure if you're doing that form, you are collecting 100% of your full fee up front. Don't split it up. Don't allow them to make payments. Don't do any of that. I wouldn't even allow them to use Care Credit or a credit card, because at that point, if 6 months later they dispute the charge with their credit card company, that whole form is now invalid. If a year later you get a notification from Care Credit that they're disputing it, that form is now invalid. So, we have to follow very specific rules when it comes to these. I just want to get that out there because there's so many people saying, oh, it's simple, just fill out the form. But it's not that simple. You have to have the plan in place. You have to have the procedures in place in writing, and you have to be sure you get paid 100% of your full fee for the service. Again, you can't give a 5% senior citizen discount. You can't give a 2% thanks for paying cash discount. None of that. They have to pay full fee. And if you're charging them $1,000 and they pay 999 and they don't pay that last dollar, guess what? That whole form is invalid and you now have to submit it to insurance. So hopefully that clears it up. It's not super simple. It's doable, but not as simple as everybody makes it sound, because if you do get audited by the OCR, and believe me, between the OCR and the ONC now, there's gonna be crackdowns. There's gonna be increases in that, I believe. Um, you don't want to be found to have violated any of those rules. So just something to keep in mind. Make sure you have your written plans, processes in place. Get those done. That's the first step. You can't even think about using the form until you have those in place. Um, so hopefully that clears up a little bit for everybody. I'm at my client's office visit for the day. Everybody have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, September 29th, and this is our morning drive live. So I wanted to just hop on real quick, just to talk about something that I've gotten a couple messages about, a couple people having questions about sunsetting software and what that means. So basically, the big question has been, because Intuit, that is the company that makes QuickBooks, has decided to, or not decided to, but their policy is that they sunset their software every 3 years. What that means is after 3 years, so in this case, it was June 1st of this year, QuickBooks 2018, if you have the desktop version of QuickBooks, they stopped offering support and they stopped doing security patches and updates for those versions. All of the software companies do this. It's not just QuickBooks. Microsoft does it. They'll support 3 versions of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, their Office suite. Adobe does it with older versions of Acrobat and Acrobat Reader. So, what does that mean for a dental office, though? What that means is HIPAA actually requires that all of your software be supported, not just your practice management software, but every program that's installed on any computer attached to your network has to be supported. It has to have security patches ongoing. So, if you are using, for example, I'm at an office today and they are using Microsoft Office 2012. It is no longer supported. You have to upgrade your software. You have to get a new version, a current version, whatever that may be, one that is still supported by the manufacturer, by the programmer. So it's important to remember that, again, it's not just your practice management software that has to be receiving updates, but every single piece of software that's on any computer attached to your network has to be currently supported. So, if you are using QuickBooks 2018, or if you are using Microsoft Office 2012, or any of those software programs that have fallen off of support, that no longer have security patches, have updates being created for them, your network is not HIPAA compliant. A big one of these a couple years ago was a driver for a wireless keyboard from Logitech. They stopped doing security patches for the keyboards I believe this was in 2019. They stopped doing updates for all of their wireless keyboards and mouses, whatever it is, that were made before 2015. And what had happened is somebody found a backdoor into the Logitech wireless keyboard driver and was able to basically take control of that computer through that back door. It was not something that got patched because they stopped patching everything previous to 2015. So, that is a huge issue when we talk about ransomware, when we talk about hacks into your system, is, just make sure you are using updated, patched, and still supported versions of all software, not just your practice management software, but every single program that is on your network. So hopefully that helps. That is something that is super important. Make sure your network security is up to date. So I am at the client's office today here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'll be back on the road tomorrow. So everybody have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow.
Good morning, everybody. We'll try this again. It is Thursday, September 30th, and this is our morning drive live. So, not sure what happened the first time, but fortunately I caught the audio issue just a second or two in, so we were able to get restarted. But anyway, with it being September 30th, this is the last day of the third quarter of 2021, which makes tomorrow the first day of the fourth quarter, which means for us, it is time to start really planning next year, planning for 2022, exactly what we're going to do to handle all of the issues and be ready for a productive year. Now's the time to do it. I'm a big proponent of pre-planning, planning things out. So, like in my office, we are now working on next year's speaking schedule, our hiring systems, new training systems for next year, all kinds of stuff. And, dental offices need to do the same, especially with everything going on with the insurance companies, figuring out if you're staying in network with some, are you going out of network with some. Now is the time to make those plans so that you are ready for January 1st, 2022. None of us know what's going to happen over the next few months, over the next year, but we need to have a plan in place. So, first thing, start looking at your network participation. I just spent the past 3 days at a very busy client and, had a great few days in office with them. But one of the things that we have to look at is network participation status. They're only in network with a few, but they are super, super busy and turning away patients because they have a 7 or 8 month wait to get in for a hygiene appointment. So, that wait has caused them to lose 864 patients year to date because they can't get in, they can't get scheduled to come in for their recall. And when you tell somebody, yeah, we can schedule your next 6-month appointment 8 months out, that's not typically a good thing. So we need to look at network participation status. Can we drop an insurance company or two, hoping to clear up the schedule, hoping that some of those patients will decide to go to another dentist, to go now to an in-network dentist, so we can clear up some room on the schedule for patients who are either fee-for-service or on a higher reimbursing plan. Those are the types of planning we need to do. As far as hiring, it's still hiring nationwide is a difficult process. So have a plan in place. You can't anticipate every single need. You can't anticipate that, at some point in the next 2 months, one of your employees is going to decide to move or leave, or their spouse is being transferred. You can't anticipate that, but have a plan in place to fulfill all of your current needs. At least that way, you're a step ahead. Excuse me. Like I said, you can't plan for every disaster, but pre-planning. Plan out your CE. Plan out, know your license renewals. So there's a lot of planning that needs to be put into place for the next year, so we don't run into situations where we're going, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? How do we handle this? This has popped up. I want to be proactive instead of reactive to situations. So we want to start that planning now. Figure out what your plan is. Are you having a hard time finding a hygienist? What is your plan? Are you having a hard time finding a front desk person? What is your plan? If you can't find a hygienist, are you able to find temps? Are they filling in that way? Is it maybe time to cut an insurance company, see less patients, make more money? You can't find a person at the front desk. Is it time to restructure? Is it time to outsource some of the tasks done by your front desk team, to give them more time to concentrate on the patients, to concentrate on answering the phone and presenting treatment? You have to put those plans into place now. Like I said, we don't know if it's going to get easier to hire. We don't know if all of a sudden Cigna is going to change their mind and say, oh, remember that 30% pay cut we gave you? We change our mind. We don't know any of that. I know pretty sure that's not going to happen with Cigna. However, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. So we have to plan to be proactive, to be ready for what comes. Plan for the unknowns, and then they're not as scary when they actually happen. So it is tomorrow, the first day of the fourth quarter of 2021. The year is almost over. We're almost there. But now it's not time to sit back and wait and enjoy the holidays. Now is the time to start getting ready for next year so you're fully prepared. I am here. I'm going into my office to start preparing for next year. Everybody have a great day, and I will see you guys tomorrow.
Good morning, everybody. It is Friday, October 1st, and this is our morning drive live. I want to talk today about something inspired by 3 phone calls I had last night from 3 different dentists around the country, all of whom had been or received inquiries from OSHA asking for documentations on specific plans because they had received complaints about the office from either current or former employees. And it got me thinking that we've never really talked about the documentation, the plans that are required for an OSHA or for a dental office to have when it comes to OSHA compliance. So I just wanted to, put the information out there, make sure you guys understand it. I am putting together a webinar for the end of this month, that I'll be going over how to create the OSHA plans that you need. But, I want to make sure everybody is clear on the actual plans that are, on the actual plans that are required for everybody to have. because unfortunately, a number of these plans, when you buy one of the pre-built compliance binders that are like fill in the blank, a number of these plans aren't actually included in those binders because they're not dental specific. They're something that every business in the country has to have. So for some reason they get omitted from that. But, I want to start going over those. There's 8 required plans now that every office must have. The first one is the bloodborne pathogen and exposure control plans. So that's actually 2, but they both kind of go together because they are about bloodborne pathogens. Um, so, you have to make sure you have your bloodborne pathogen, your accidental stick prevention plan, your exposure control plan. So what happens if an employee is exposed, if there's a needle stick, if there's a sharp instrument stick. These are things that you have to have. And I see in groups all the time, people will say, oh, we had an employee got stuck, or, somebody got poked with a dirty instrument in sterilization. What do we do? And, that is the reason you're supposed to have these 2 plans, is so that you know what to do in that instance. You're not relying on the world of Facebook to tell you what to do when an employee gets poked. The second plan is an accident and injury prevention plan. Naturally, these are talking about these plans are ways to prevent injuries, to prevent accidents in the workplace. This would be the plan that would focus on ergonomics, that would focus on, whether it be an administrative or an engineering safeguard to prevent injury. So that's another required plan that you have to have in your OSHA plans and, OSHA binder if you have one, which we'll talk about that in a minute. The next one is hazard communication. So the hazard communication plan talks about all of the dangerous chemicals that dental offices have in their offices, and specifically talks about the chemicals that you have in your office. And this is when reviewing this plan and going over the training with your team, this is the plan where you'll say, if this chemical gets in your eye, this is what you do. If you accidentally ingest this chemical, this is what you do. That is the required training that's done annually and as often as needed when you add a new chemical for your team for the HAZCOM plan. And, that training really does have to be very, very specific to your office. They all do. But this one really has to be, because it talks specifically about the chemicals that you have in your office. And you may have different chemicals, different, hazardous materials in your office than another. Some offices have tanks. They'll have oxygen tanks. They'll have the nitrous tanks. Some offices don't. So it does have to be very specific to your office. The next plan is one that is very, very important, and that is the emergency action plan. This is one of those plans that doesn't appear in most of the binders that you buy pre-built fill in the blank, but it is actually required for every single business in the country to have one. And again, it's the emergency action plan. It's what do we do in case there is a tornado and we need to bunker down? What do we do if there's a fire and we need to evacuate? What do we do if there's an armed robbery or a gunman or a crazy ex at the front desk with a gun? Planning for all of those emergencies. I liken this to a fire drill when we were back in school and we'd have those fire drills regularly. Um, this is the grown-up version of a fire drill, but really covers more than just a fire. This plan has to have very specific things like, where is your rally point if you have to evacuate? Where do all of the employees come together? Where do they meet so that you can ensure you have all of the employees and they were all able to get out? The next plan is a very simple one, but again, often overlooked. It's the ionizing radiation plan. We have x-ray units in dental offices. We need to have an ionizing radiation plan that talks about the safeguards to take when using an x-ray, whether that is, if somebody has to be in the room when the x-ray is active, if you have a child or a gagger and you need to hold the sensor while somebody else is pressing the activation button. But those kind of policies. But again, it's something that if you have x-rays in your office, you have to have an ionizing radiation plan. The next two are new. The workplace violence prevention plan went into place about 3 years ago. Every healthcare setting in the country is required to have a workplace violence prevention plan that talks about how to prevent violence in the workplace. Healthcare workers are 10 times more likely to experience violence in the workplace than any other industry. So it became something that's very important a few years ago to be added and something to be addressed in every healthcare setting in the country. And finally, this is the new one, just went into effect last year, but the respiratory protection program just went into effect last year. It's a brand new plan. You need to make sure your OSHA information, your OSHA binder has a respiratory protection program in place, in writing for your employees, and you have to follow it. So now that's the other thing I wanted to talk about. These plans are all required. You have to have them. However, other than hazard communication, workplace violence, and respiratory protection, the rest of them can be verbal plans. They can be discussions that you have. However, if you don't have documentation that you've had the discussion and have records of that, you don't have a plan. So while you can communicate those other 5 plans verbally, if you don't have documentation that you did it, you don't have the plan. So, the other 3, the HAZCOM, the workplace violence, and the respiratory protection, absolutely have to be in writing. The other 5, they can be verbal, but again, if you don't have documentation that you've had the discussion with all of your employees and they've signed a sign-in sheet to the discussion, then you do not have those plans. So that is the 8 required plans. Like I said, a lot of them are overlooked in those fill-in-the-blank pre-done binders. I just want everybody to understand the documentation that is required. Like I said, I am doing putting together a webinar for the end of this month. It will be October 28th, which I believe is a Thursday. Thursday, October 28th, we're going to do it from 6 to 9 p.m. It's a 3-hour webinar. 6 to 9 p.m. on Thursday, October 28th. That's Eastern Time. 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, October 28th. As soon as the links are ready, I will make sure they get posted here in the group. As always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to comment here or reach out to me direct. Everybody have a great weekend. It is Friday, and I will see you guys on Monday morning.